Hello and welcome to Everything as a Service, Innovation in Growth-Focused Professional Services Companies, a discussion with Katie Evans, Research Director, Worldwide Small and Medium Business Research at IDC. I'm your host, Timo Elliott, and I'm an innovation evangelist for SAP. Today, we'll be exploring the ways that mid-sized companies are expanding their services to better satisfy their customers and drive business growth. And we'll be taking a specific look at respondents from the professional services industry. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much, Timo. It's great to be here.
To get started, it would be great to hear more about the research that IDC recently conducted on behalf of SAP. What have mid-sized companies been facing and what are their challenges?
Thanks, Timo. Well, with today's turbulent economy, we decided to ask professional services companies about their top macroeconomic challenges. And when we really looked at the data, we found that financial concerns such as inflation and interest rates ranked higher than overall mid-sized companies polled. Now, this could be a result of rising cost of skills due to inflation. And since professional services is very people-based and not product-based, industry and labor cost increases are especially going to impact these types of companies. We also found that talent acquisition and retention and global health concerns such as pandemics ranked higher for professional services firms than respondents overall. Again, we think this likely comes back to the fact that these industries are people-centric. It's the people nature of these businesses and interacting with other individuals. So finding this right emotional and intellectual fit in an employee can be more difficult in this industry. And since more tasks require human interaction, employee health is especially critical.
That all makes a lot of sense. So against this backdrop, what are the priorities of these organizations?
So we asked the companies about their top business objectives to drive growth, and we found that the top 3 for mid-sized companies overall are attracting new customers, growing revenue, and increasing employee productivity and efficiency. Now, when we asked professional services respondents, the top 5, the 3 of the top 5 were increase employee productivity and efficiency, grow revenue, and attract and retain top talent. Again, it's coming back to that central theme that professional services is more focused on employees. These businesses really rely on their people to deliver the product. So talent and employee efficiencies are top priorities.
Again, it all makes a lot of sense, as you say. And this is an industry where things are changing rapidly. Client expectations are rising. They want to pay for outcomes rather than time spent. And there's a lot of competitive pressures, including new digital-first startups and low-cost service providers. At SAP, we see professional services organizations adopting new everything as a service, XaaS offerings that use digital products to complement their traditional people-based services. And one big benefit of this is it provides leave-behind revenue streams that continue even after the traditional projects are completed. And it can even increase company valuations because services companies become more like technology companies with more predictable, repeatable revenue streams. So, Katie, what does the research show about how organizations are reacting to these kinds of challenges?
Right, that's really interesting. And so we did talk about this point, and we made sure to include it in the data. We asked companies what value-added services or solutions they're planning to introduce or expand in 2023 to address these evolving customer expectations, as you just talked about. So we found there's very strong interest in new business models, new channels, touch points, and new product lines as well, especially in the companies that we identified as leaders. And so those that we identified as leaders have stronger revenue growth, more market share growth, and who have better weathered the pandemic overall. So what we're finding is that rather than squeeze more dollars out of current offerings and customers, they're really looking to broaden their portfolio of products and services and their customers as well.
So new business models, like many other companies in many other industries, but it can be hard for professional services, though. Existing internal systems in particular were typically only built to manage simple customer project delivery processes. And even for organizations that know how to deliver a mix of products and services, optimizing the new pricing options and packaging options can require new technology approaches. And of course, it then becomes more complex to measure things like profitability. You need a single view of all of your products and services to each one of your clients. And then again, all of that needs to be integrated with the core financials.
Right. It's so important, like you mentioned, that technology is so critical to driving improvements in these services models, because they're really demanding these new and more useful ways to pay for professional services, much to your points. So clients want to be charged by results and not time or billable hours. And they want to be offered digital capabilities. And that's just a couple of examples. The good news for mid-sized companies is that they're typically more agile and they can test and iterate and innovate more quickly than larger enterprises, which really opens them up to new delivery models, services more quickly than larger organizations that might be slower to adapt and have more red tape, more layers to go into innovation. So we also asked respondents which technologies they are using or planning to use. And you can see here that quite a few solutions are ranked very highly by professional services firms. Now, one interesting thing that we discovered when we reviewed the responses of the leaders overall, so again, those with the greater revenue growth and market share growth, was that ERP was the top technology cited. 92% of the leaders said that they use or plan to use ERP.
Well, as you say, for mid-sized companies, agility can be a huge competitive advantage. And Cloud ERP gives professional services organizations everything they need to adapt to these everything as a service products with more transparency about what's happening, the ability to provide new digital subscription-based repeatable services. It also means you can do integrated billing across multiple different business models with a single contract and invoice to your customers. But of course, at the end of the day, it's all about the customer experience. So, Katie, how are professional services organizations dealing with the new customer expectations?
Well, the way to improve customer experience and expectations is to leverage data to improve that customer experience. So when firms use data to better understand their customers, they can improve their services for them. And we asked respondents how they plan to leverage this customer data that they collect to improve their offerings and to drive growth. And the top responses by professional services companies and leaders were to improve business models. And this can really help them meet customer demands. So really important to lean into that data.
That makes a lot of sense. So to wrap this up, what are your final recommendations for mid-sized companies who are looking to expand their service business models and for professional services firms in particular?
It's very important to take a hard look at your offerings and see that they are serving your customers and meeting them on their terms and not yours. And just to reiterate, to use that data to inform your offerings and better meet your customer needs. Migrating to this service-based approach that charges based on results and not time, and in bite-sized increments as well. These are all more approachable ways for consumers to use your services and to adapt and understand and absorb your technologies.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our short discussion. Katie, thank you so much for your data and insights.
Thank you.